So hello everybody and welcome to another scintillating episode of the Case Broadcast. It's hello from me, Patrick Twitchett, the Simplifier.
And it's hello from Melvin Manning from M&M Consultancy.
And it's a hello to our guest today.
Good morning.
Hello, Owen.
Hello.
Moving on, we're very grateful to have you all here listening this week, and we're going to talk about a fascinating subject around getting more business in, and who better than our guest today, Owain Williams. So, Owain, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Okay, right. Well, yes, good morning, gents. As you said, my name's Owain Williams. I have a business called Dreamer, which is a sales consultancy specializing in B2B sales. That's been what I've worked in for the majority of my working life to date, which is pretty much 25 years, in which time I've been a salesperson. I still am a salesperson. I've been a sales leader, sales director. And now I aim to take all of that experience and help others, be that business owners, be that sales leaders, be that salespeople, who are encountering sales problems and need some support.
Excellent, excellent. And that, of course, will help us. We've got your sales background, we've got Melvin's marketing background. So, and the episode today is targeting business that is achieved outside of the networking area, and how do you do this? So, Owain, do you want to kick us off with your initial thoughts and on what aspects we're going to look at today, please?
Okay, so the first aspect to look at is ICP and IBCs. Acronyms. The ICP stands for the Ideal Customer Profile, and the IBC is the Ideal Buying Committee. So to put those in simple terms, the ideal customer profile is the business or the businesses that you want to work with, that would benefit from whatever it is that you offer. And it's important to really clarify exactly what those types of businesses are, so that it helps in your targeting, that you're efficient, you're not wasting your time chasing the wrong types of opportunity. And so within that, very important to build a picture. What do these types of businesses look like? Be that from a financial perspective, headcount, could be geographical, what verticals do they operate in? Essentially, to build that clarity, these are the types of businesses who benefit best from whatever it is I do.
Okay. A lot of people will call that customer avatar, and they've got various other terms, haven't they? But I think from my experience and from what I hear as well, that the more you can niche that down and be very specific about that target, the more accurate your marketing can become and how you operate. Is that right?
Absolutely spot on, and that is a big challenge for lots of people, myself included. The niching aspect of it, because there's the fear, that once you go to, you're trying to find this niche, which makes obvious commercial sense, but then there's always this fear. Well, I need to get some business in, and if I'm niching, am I potentially not exposing myself to other business opportunities? And I get that fear. I've had that fear myself. The flip side of that is that if you don't niche, you can't appeal to everybody, and you will ultimately waste your time chasing the wrong types of opportunity. So it's very important to niche. And you're right, lots of other people will refer to that as a customer avatar, although that can also then be applied to the ideal buying committee. So the ideal customer profile is typically referring to the business, whereas the ideal buying committee are the individuals within the business who are relevant to making decisions to use you as a provider of whatever services or products it is that you do. So you know the types of businesses that you benefit best from what you offer. It's then, right, who are the people within those businesses that make the decisions, the ones that I need to subsequently engage with, and they're the ideal buying committee. You go online, through social media, read various stats. The ones I keep seeing quite regularly is that nowadays there's an average of 6 people within an ideal buying committee. So 6 different individuals that you need to build rapport, relationships with, engage with, because between those 6, on average, they are making the decisions as to whether they would use you as a provider.
Wow, that's a big number, isn't it? And that's a lot of relationships to build. And that makes sense, because if your competition, I suppose, is building a really strong relationship with 2 of those people and you're concentrating on, say, 3 of them, then you're really exposed to other people getting their foot in the door, aren't you?
Absolutely. And it happens time and time again. I've made the mistake myself. People who I've worked with have made the mistake. Other people I speak with make the mistake where you find a champion within the ideal buying committee who you immediately connect with, and that's it. You just constantly work on that individual, but at the expense of working with all the rest of the other people in the ideal buying committee. And whilst you might have that champion and that might get you some opportunities and might ultimately make you win some business, you're in a really risky position, because if that individual leaves that buying committee for whatever reason, they get a promotion, they leave the business, whatever reason, then you're back to the very, very, very beginning in needing to build rapport, relationships with all the rest.
Yeah, sure. And again, we've come through this lockdown period where it's all becoming this virtual thing, but face to face and getting together with people and sitting down having a meal, which a lot of us look at that as, the thing we did in the 70s and 80s, but actually it's a really effective thing, isn't it? And Melvin, that's one of your real emphasis points that you really focus on, isn't it, Melvin? That you like the face-to-face, meeting people, having meals with people and all that sort of thing, don't you?
Yeah, even a walk in the park is better than doing what we're doing now, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, circumstances put us in these positions. As far as working in the environments that Owain is working within, the science behind it is quite involved, and what people don't understand is all those acronyms. What people don't understand is the mathematics behind channeling and finding your niche markets. So Owain is kind of a breath of fresh air within, let's say, certain environments where he will come up with the answer. The issue, it's not a problem, but the issue is you've got to run with it, and you've got to obviously give it time. So Owain, the question I would ask you is, what kind of, let's say, length of engagement does any of this science take?
There isn't a hard and fast rule there. It's dependent on each individual circumstance. What I can really say is what not to do is not to try and make a sale on the first engagements. You're building relationships, rapport. What you should aim to do when building new connections is the focus should be very quickly on qualifying in or out as to whether it's worth more effort on your part and time on the other person's part to continue hearing you out. So that should be the focus ultimately in the beginning stages. Let's qualify you in or out. Is it worth continuing having a conversation or not? If it's not, c'est la vie. That's the way it goes. Let's move on. Thank you very much for your time. And if it is, let's take that step further. Again, referring back to what I said about reading online, social media, certain stats regarding the number of people in the ideal buying committee, you'll read quite often that it can take supposedly, I see this quite often, between 12 to 16 touch points before an individual becomes a client. It's 12 to 16 different pieces of communication from the initial engagement to them deciding to use you as a provider or supplier, whatever it is you do. That's not necessarily been my experience. I would query that, but I do see that quite a lot, and I see it backed up by supposed, case studies and evidence. But the point being, you're not going to do business with a client off one call, one email. It will take time.
No, sure. And I mean, you touched on their qualifying in or out. Now, some people can interpret that as, asking the blatant question, so do you want my business or not? But there's obviously much more subtle ways of doing that. And do you have a subtle approach regarding that, or is it quite a direct approach?
In the early stages, it pays to be pretty direct, not to be rude, but to be direct. This is why I'm calling. What I know so far is this. Do you have these problems? If you do, then maybe I have solutions for them. If you don't have these problems, we move on. I'm going to put the phone down and thank you very much, and I'll move on to the next person and establish quickly if they have the problems that I can solve. So yeah, it does definitely pay to be direct, not necessarily to be so direct as, I know it's just an example, but do you want to do business with me or not? Maybe not, using that approach, but definitely to be direct, to qualify quickly. Are you experiencing the problems that I can solve, that my experience, my product, my service solves? If you don't have these problems, then there's no benefit to you and I continue speaking.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And that's mixed in with the rapport stage, is it?
No, I would say that becomes before the rapport stage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, why essentially attempt to build rapport with somebody if there's no opportunity to do business with them? This is focusing on this outside of networking, this specific topic. Yeah. If it's networking, that's obviously a different approach because they might be a connector for you. Something I know that you personally do very, very well and see great value in. But we're focusing on, targeting businesses outside of networking. I'm not going to aim to try and build rapport with somebody if there's no opportunity to do business with them directly. It's a waste of everybody's time. Yeah,
that's fair enough. And I think that and we're talking about business outside of networking specifically, but there is always the fact on the element that if you can't do business with a person, is there further elements where you could work together? Is there collaborative? Is there, connecting or referral opportunities from that individual? So, but yeah, now that makes good sense. So yeah, just qualifying whether that's worth pursuing in that direction or not, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and yeah, when you're finding out the ideal customer profile, the ideal buying committee, you're mapping this all out. Ideally you're documenting that somewhere, so you're building this image of the businesses and the people within it, the hierarchy. Who reports into who's making the decisions. You need to have that absolute clarity if you really want to stand a chance of trying to do business with these businesses. Yeah, and once you find out who the ideal buying committee are, names, contact details, and then it's working out how best to engage with them.
Yeah, okay. So just taking one step back very briefly, something that I sort of missed on latching into there. You're talking about these, on average, 6 people within a company that you need to build this relationship with. How do you go about finding that information? Going from my own personal experience, gatekeepers have become more and more fortified now. It's like coming up against a portcullis and a drawbridge very often now when you contact a lot of companies. you know, you used to be able to walk in, speak to the receptionist, hello, you know, and get a few names, and now it's very, very guarded. How do you make use of what's available to you to get those details? What sort of actions?
Okay, so as you guys know, and those who know me well, I'm a regular user of LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn every single day, constantly building my network with the right people, and so that's my default first step. If I need to find contact details, do you exist on LinkedIn? I'm going to go to your company page and I'm going to see if you're listed as an employee on LinkedIn. If you are, then yeah, I can see a name. I might look to connect with you on LinkedIn, but at the very least, I can get a name, yeah, and job title, and start building out, you know, my mapping of each business. There are various other tools. You go to people's websites, you know, if they have Meet the Team, that's an obvious one. Yeah, details clearly who's who, you know, what positions they hold. I don't use it, but there's Sales Navigator. You know, that's a paid for function within LinkedIn. You know, that can be more extensive for searching for, you know, the contacts. Other tools, Zoom Info, a very popular one where you can find contact details for individuals. There are lots of other similar tools in the UK.
So that one was Zoom Info.
Zoom Info, yeah, all one word, Zoom Info. Okay. And that just essentially scrapes at a base level. Yeah, well, yeah, I'm sure that they would argue that it does a lot more, but it just scrapes details, contact details for individuals.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about Companies House?
Yeah, exactly. In the UK, you can use Companies House. That's a simple one to find the listed directors. Yeah, I have a free profile on another site, Endole, Endole.
Yeah.
It's an aggregator of information at Companies House, and I just use the free version. That you can very quickly find out who are the listed directors for businesses. Yeah, there are other versions. Judil was one I used for many years until they then got rid of the free version.
Yeah.
But in this day and age, there are a number of methods that people can employ to find names. It's not difficult, you know, in this day and age. People's details exist somewhere on the internet.
Yeah. With social media, there's obviously lots of different access points, and
What about the old-fashioned way?
What, the yellow pages?
No, networking.
Of course, yeah, of course, for networking.
You go to a networking do or some kind of meet where people are looking to network and do business. Do you have a view on those particular engagements? Because you face to face, you're eye to eye with potentially a decision maker.
Absolutely. Similar to you, Melvin, I'm a big fan, and it was a big part of my particular sales approach for many years, preferring to be in front of people. You know, I'm a lovely guy, and I'm very engaging, and I'm very interested in people, and that really comes across when I'm sitting in front of somebody. It was for many years when I was employed in my previous place as a sales director. Above me was the MD, and then above him was the chairman. So I obviously reported into both of those. And whilst I held a responsibility for the budget for entertaining, I constantly clashed with my MD over this, constantly, because he had his opinion on spend. I had mine. You know, I had customers who might be making the business £100,000 profit annually.
Yeah,
I'd take them out once a year and spend maybe 1,500, and I think that's a great deal, because it's putting me in prime position to get another £100,000 over the year. He would see it a different way. He would constantly see that sort of obscene. Ultimately, whilst I had the responsibility, it was mine anyway. It was just he and I would clash over it. But then yes, that all changed. didn't it? It all changed, you know, and I have not been out on any kind of social function to that extent since the beginning of the pandemic. You know, so I've had to evolve my particular sales approach. But to answer that question, Melvin, yes, whenever I'm in front of people, I much prefer that. Obviously you can read body language much better. You can get people's attention much better. So yes,
you can get to the point of, do you want to do business or not, much more swiftly, because it's very easy on a computer when you're on Zoom, or whether you're in Teams or whatever you're choosing to use. It's very easy to, let's say, put things off. It's very easy to hold decisions back. Whereas if you're in front of somebody, it's, you know, it's not about being easy. It's just that it's better and more honest.
Yeah,
that's my old-fashioned view.
right.
You know, we all want to get on with it. A company out there who you're looking to target obviously has an issue in one form or another, or they don't. So you need to get to the nitty-gritty sooner rather than later, don't you?
Yeah, and I would, with that in mind, and this is the reality of the world now, you know, many salespeople will have to change their approach, and that may well then add up to this extended stat of now 12 to 16 average touch points. Yeah, because we're having to do this virtually, you know, and those touch points include an email, they might include a call, they might include a video call, and so it elongates that what was maybe previously a shorter process. But we can't constantly look back. You know, the world constantly moves forward, and so we have to adapt. It changes every single second, and it's those who evolve and will prosper in the new world.
Yeah. No, very good. So you've obviously touched on there, and there's been some great points there about how to connect with these people, how to find them. And you talked about qualifying whether they're in or out, potentially. So that qualifies whether they actually need your service. And then there's a further qualifying purpose, isn't there? Because you've already established your ideal customer profile, and you need to ensure, and I know you've obviously done research and you focus on a company where you feel that is within your ideal customer profile, but you've then got to almost try to qualify them out, which in essence is qualifying them in. Is do they fit in your niche, isn't it? Are they your ideal client? Are they someone you really want to work with, isn't it?
Absolutely, you're totally right. Yeah, whichever way you want to present that, it's basically understanding, is there merit to both parties in continuing a conversation? Yeah, that's what I'm aiming to get from my mission in the initial engagement stage, is not to make a sale at all. It's to establish very quickly, is this worth more time to you and I, and continue the conversation.
Yeah, sure.
In other words, you're prospecting the fact of, can we actually work together?
That's exactly it. Yeah, can we work together? If so, if there's potential to do so, then we take it to the next steps. You know, what are you already doing to solve the problems you have? You know, how do I start working to get myself in front of you to show you that I can solve the problems you have?
Yeah, and I think, and I know from my own experience, it's just checking people out. How can I put this in a technical term? To see if they're an awkward sod or not, because these are the clients that, you know, you end up winning their business, and then you want to I find you want to detect earlier on in the relationship whether they're one of these nitpicky, problem-making people that give you 80% of your aggro and less than 20% of your income. They're just constantly draining on your time. I mean, have you got any tactics that you employ to pick up those early warning signs on a psychological level?
Yeah, it's a valid point. It's a difficult one because I would take the approach of maybe, because I've again, made this mistake myself, and I've seen people who I've worked with make the mistake where they approach somebody already kind of thinking negative thoughts, about potentially the individual or the scope, the opportunity for business, and they might manifest something that didn't already exist. They create the issue before because they're going, right, I think based on what I know so far that this guy's going to be a bit of a difficult person, and their engagement is with that view in mind, and they maybe end up creating that problem. So yeah, I tend to take it the other way. I'm going to go in and go, right, you're a lovely person, we can get on with each other, I can solve your problems, you have problems, you're going to be happy to engage with me, and look at it all in a positive light that way. And then, as soon as I can, start trying to understand really who you are as an individual, how you like to communicate, what's your preference. Are you a detailed orientated person, or are you a chunker? One of those ones. Just give me the information quickly. Do you prefer emails? Do you prefer phones? Emails are so difficult and very often misinterpreted, the context of them, the tonality of them. I know numerous people who just unfortunately are lovely people in person, but they just, the way they write emails just comes across really aggressive and rude, and it's not reflecting in who they are. It's just how they come to write emails, and you could think, if you didn't speak to this person in person, you could think, wow, what an a-hole, So it's important to try and get them on the phone, because that gives you a better idea of their personalities compared to anything electronic.
And you touched on personality types there, that sort of disc profiling of the 4 basic personality types and those traits, and that helps you establish the best way to approach that individual on the way they like to interact, doesn't it?
Absolutely. You see a lot of people giving advice that be authentic in sales. Don't to try and be somebody you're not. Okay, on one level that absolutely makes sense. We're doing business. There's still that adage that people buy from people. It's not completely true, but in the main it is. And so I need to know, really, I need to have a good idea who you actually are. Yeah. But at the same time, the salesperson, if they've got anything about them, does need to be amending their approach, the way they communicate, so that it's the preference for the client.
I'm finding it very much more with the younger generation as well, that they don't want to talk on the phone. They want to have a WhatsApp message, or or even a LinkedIn message, and I mean, I know you sent me a direct message on LinkedIn the other day, and I get people that sort of speak to me and say, "Oh, well, didn't you see my LinkedIn message?" I said, "Oh, well, I haven't been on it for a couple of days, so no, I haven't seen that." But they expect, because they're on it all the time, that everybody else is on it all the time, waiting for those messages to pop in. So there's multifaceted options now to how to communicate with people, and some of them are completely bizarre. Someone said to me, if you want to catch up, zap me a Instagram message. And I sort of said, oh, blimey. I go on there once a month. Okay, but it's just having those avenues open, I suppose. Yeah.
And knowing, this is part of the first point. You're identifying your ideal customer profile, the buying committee, clarifying who these people are, getting their contact details, and then how best to engage with them. So in that example that you just gave, if that person who said, look, I sent you a LinkedIn message a few days ago, did not see it, if they were trying to sell you something, trying to be a supplier, they're failing in trying to use a medium that is not the best way to engage with Patrick.
Yeah, yeah,
So you need
sure.
to understand
Sure.
that. Where do these people reside? Again, my default is I'm going to LinkedIn. If I see a profile, find a name, I'm going to check, what's your activity? How
Yeah,
active are you on this? Are you posting? Are you engaging with people? And if I can't see that you are on a regular basis, then I'm not going to rely on LinkedIn as my method, my medium to engage you effectively.
yeah,
But then the other way around, if you see somebody is on it regularly, then that's going to be my go-to to start with. So you need to understand, if you're not on Instagram, again, using your example, but yet all the clients you want to work with are on Instagram, you best get yourself on Instagram.
yeah, sure. Okay, and so we've got this client, and we're now finding the right way to approach them, and their personality type, and their mediums of communication that they prefer. So we're building that relationship and that rapport. How do you, and just trying to sum this up very briefly, but how do you, there's an old word, schmooze them. How do you schmooze them to that place, getting them over the line? I know people use alternative closes and all these things. Where do you see that element of things? How do you adapt that?
Yeah, okay. So my personal approach, I break down the engagement into chunks. I don't particularly put a name on them, but the point being that the initial engagement, I have a mission. What's my challenge right now? My challenge right now is, as we've already discussed, I need to essentially qualify you quickly in and out. So I'm getting straight to the point. If I'm using the phone, lots of people are advocates nowadays of using what they call pattern interrupts. So instead of the traditional, hi, my name is Owen, are you the person in charge of purchasing paper for ABC? People will use these pattern interrupts. Hi, this is Owen. You don't know me. This is a cold call. Have you got 27 seconds for me to tell you why I'm calling? And that's an example of quite a popular pattern interrupt. It's throwing the individual off what's maybe a traditional call, but essentially, if that's on the phone, then it's qualifying in and out. That's my first mission. Is this worth having more further conversations? Right. If it is, great. Then the next step, I'm going to arrange maybe another time to communicate. And in that, whenever I'm communicating, all of my messaging, I'm wording it. If I'm writing it, I'm writing it, however it is, so that it's written in the perspective of what's beneficial to the other party. You'll see it time and time again. People don't care that you've been in business for X amount of years, that last year you turned over X amount of millions, and you work with this client, that client. They don't care, what's in it for them to engage with you. And that's focusing. You have these problems. This is how we solve the problems, and this is the outcome of those problems being solved for you. So schmoozing, I think it's more in the initial stages, because if you're trying to schmooze and build rapport in the initial stages, it's fake, it's insincere. I don't know you as an individual. Stop asking me how my family are. It's insincere. Get to the point. I'm a busy person, you're a busy person. What do you want? Why are you calling or contacting me? And then it's just gauging each individual. Some individuals, and I've had this experience, have taken me years to break down that wall that they put up. Oh, you're a salesperson.
Yeah.
What do you want? What do you want? Taking me years to scale over that wall. And I actually much prefer that. I prefer a wall being put up, because if I've established that you do have problems that I solve, then great. There's a commercial reason to engage in, but you put this wall up, fine. I'm going to continue scaling up that wall, because once I'm over the other side of it, I'm then feeling confident that our relationship is protected, because you put that wall up for every other person trying to get the business.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Yeah, the hard ones to land are the hard ones to lose. So that's
Yeah, absolutely. And your business is protected, and it works just the other way around. If you make an initial call and after 1, 2, or 3 calls, you suddenly get some business. Okay, on one level, that's great. But then you have to really ask yourself, okay, really being honest, what did I do? And you could probably make the assumption that that customer is the type of customer who will open the door for anybody who calls.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you're just in a race to the bottom, lowest common denominator of price for that business. And it turns out to not be that great an opportunity.
Yeah, yeah, very much. I think that's the difference between the red and the blue ocean there, isn't it, Melvin?
Well, it very much is. And so I look at what Owen's putting across here, and I would ask the question as to the fact of, are you good at what you do?
Are you asking me, Melvin?
I am.
Oh.
Am I good at what I do? Oh, okay. Well,
Melvin always asks
so,
these really awkward questions. It's just normal. I mean,
no, that's fine. It's fine. It's interesting that you ask that, because that suggests that maybe something I've said is giving you an impression I'm not good at what I do.
Because if I want to work with you, of which, as you know, we will be working together, I'd want to know, as somebody that doesn't know you, how good you are.
Yes, great. Okay, well, that does then.
And the thing is that, you know, we all run our business lives by testimonial of the fact of successes. We run our lives by the fact of not gloating, but being proud of our achievements. And more often than not, people will make a decision on the basis from maybe a recommendation, which we haven't touched on in this conversation, that, you know, I want to use Patrick Twitchett because he's bloody good at what he does. Because he's done something for someone I know and turned their world around positively. Now,
so
we haven't looked at that engagement.
No. I mean, that's actually referrals, testimonials, case studies. It's the last of the 3 points, you know, and you're totally right, Melvin. You know, that is ultimately the question. And what lots of people would do in that circumstance, and I actually had to bite my tongue because I almost defaulted to doing it. The minute you said, "Are you any good at what you do?" Well, you know, I've worked in sales since 1998. You know, I made X amount of profit last year, and over my career, I've made X amount of profit. It's the default kind of defensive answer that people take.
Yeah.
Well, of course, I'm good at what I do. Yeah, I've achieved this and that and that. But then it falls back to people don't care. You know, they don't care, and that's all in the past. Nowadays, social proof is very, very important. So the referrals, the testimonials, the case studies, absolutely. You know, a very well-known weapon in building that social proof.
There's one word you've missed out.
Referrals, testimonials, references as well. Yeah.
No, reputation.
Oh, reputation. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Reputation. There's a quote that I love to use about reputation, that trust, and you can substitute reputation there. Trust arrives on foot and leaves on horseback. So the point being, it takes years.
On the Great White Charger, of course.
Yeah, it takes years to build trust and a reputation, and you can very quickly lose it, and sometimes forever.
Yeah.
A reputation is very, very important. How do you build a reputation? Just for consistently delivering on what you say you can deliver, building up a network of people who can be advocates for you, you know, listing references, referrals, testimonials, case studies on websites. Yeah, it's very important. People should get into a habit of asking for a referral or a testimonial or a case study after every single successful engagement with a client.
Talk to Joe Schmo, another old-fashioned expression, Patrick, but talk to Joe Schmo and just get some kind of feedback on what you've done for Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
Because there's another aspect of this, which is something that I have personally, I put my hand up just to say, you know, it does happen, but over promising and under delivering. Now, obviously, we're only as good as the successes that we have. Now, obviously, that has to be managed, doesn't it? Because everybody wants to hear because obviously you're in sales. I'm going to grow your business from a sales point of view by X% exponentially over the next whatever months, years, whatever. But one has to, when you're saying those types of statements, one has to, let's say, take a deep breath and not overpromise. But it's always wonderful when you know your own capabilities, that when you bring in that big deal that wasn't expected, all of a sudden you become a superstar. And, that white Charger then takes you to your penthouse apartment overlooking Manhattan or wherever it might be. Now, obviously, customers, old-fashioned customers, not the millennial type of individuals that want to do all this constant texting or this constant digital communication. The bottom line of anyone in anyone's business is, am I going to grow? Will this person make me and take me to that point? So are you that person? Is that what Owain Williams is? Not Dreamer, Owain Williams.
Absolutely. And it's the big challenge to get across to people without defaulting saying, well, yeah, I've achieved so much in the past. The past is the past, we're in the future. I typically, whenever people have asked me that question, I try to inject a bit of humor. Well, of course I'm good, and try to convey that, a bit of, humor with that. What salespeople, people in my position can certainly do to help kind of start building that trust that I am the right person is to tailor their proposals so that it's more weighted to earning based off delivering results.
Yeah.
In the beginning, when I first set up my business, I went out straight away, going to people, right, don't pay me anything to engage me, only pay me if I deliver X. And when I was speaking to a mentor, he opened my eyes on that and said, I can understand why you've done that, because you want to convey to people that, you do believe you're good, but you'll only get paid if you do deliver the result. That makes sense. But the reality is, the way I'm engaging with people, I don't have absolute control over every dynamic within the business. And I'm still dependent on my clients following the guidance, or implementing whatever it is we've discussed. And I have no control over that. And so if they don't do it exactly as we had agreed for whatever reason, and then they don't get the result, and I've set myself up that I only get paid the result, I lose out for reasons outside of my control. So more and more, I do try and weight it that you might pay to retain me on a basis, but there's essentially a commission element of it. I'm a salesperson. I'm used to earning enhanced earnings off delivering enhanced results. So why stop that kind of mentality? So that's one way I try and convey that I'm any good, by making that clear that I would, if we are engaged, the commercials be more weighted to delivering on results. But also, trying to reference them to people, shared people we might know, and asking the right questions. If I can ask the right questions and give them value early on in an engagement, then that, I think, is a very important way in building that credibility, that trust that I am the individual who can help them solve their problems. And it's effective questions, really effective and active listening. You've just said this. What are you doing for this? Oh, okay. Well, have you tried this? And adding some early stage value for free, to help build that credibility.
And I think that also builds trust, doesn't it? When you're willing to share things with them, because you're trying to get that trust to a higher level, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Some way or form. So there's some really good points there. I'm aware we're running out of time, and it's normally Melvin who jumps in and bullies me and says, Patrick, are you going to keep running on? But is there any summary points that either of you would like to just throw in before we move on?
We've only barely touched on this subject. It's such a minefield. And And the science of it, if you want to put it into science sentences, is endless. It's enormous. The most important thing that I would like to just say and ask Owen is it a business decision to work together with somebody that has a requirement? Or is it a decision made by, I can work with that person? Or is there a halfway ground which brings people together?
Relevant to what I do, consulting services, I'd say it's a halfway ground. There has to be a commercial need for me, and I have to have clearly articulated how I can solve that commercial problem. Yeah. But because I'm not selling anything tangible, you don't get a pen at the end of the engagement with me. It's something physical in your hand.
Yeah.
And a lot of trust and faith has to be built in order for the client to feel confident to engage me without that guarantee of something tangible at the end. Because I don't make any guarantees.
Yeah.
I can't make any guarantees because, as I said already, I don't have full control over everything. So there has to be a business reason for sure, and then there also has to be likability, if you want, or built some faith in working with me as an individual. So yeah, halfway ground, relevant to what I do. If I'm selling products, and that's commoditized products, and my background is selling IT hardware, whilst it's still useful to be able to build relationships with people, that then predominantly comes down to the actual, I have the product, nobody else has the product, you have no choice but to buy from me, for example. So maybe not so much, needing the personal element of, but what I do, it's a halfway ground for sure.
Well, if you've got a commodity that no one else has got, it doesn't matter whether you love, like, hate, whichever the case may be, the actual company that you're working for or with. That's then just a monetary decision. It's not
absolutely
anything other than that.
Absolutely.
And as you said earlier with your example about clashing with your, let's say, your employer of the past, it continued because of the successes that you had, subject to the fact of you underspending or overspending on client entertainment. The business still continued. But the fact is that with these situations, people have to be open, willing, and more importantly, transparent for you to work with them. Is that fair to say?
Very fair to say. And the recognition of that, as I get older, I completely I can see 5-10 years in the future, and it doesn't faze me. I'm not 21 where I'm not looking past next weekend. And so the concept of building trust and credibility over time, I'm absolutely fine with. And I recognize, particularly what I'm doing right now, that is an absolute necessity. So I'm sowing seeds every day. That's a metaphor for building relationships, by the way, not the other sowing seeds. And I'm just, watering each on a daily basis. And some will bloom quickly, some won't ever bloom, some will take ages to bloom. And that's fine by me, because I recognize I need to build that trust and credibility with people to feel confident to engage me.
Technically, that's called putting it out there.
Yeah, okay.
Putting out the positive vibes.
Excellent. So while Owen is managing his orangery of various plants there and nurturing them all, and working his way towards those successes. So I'm going to draw that to a close. For those that want to further join us in our workshop, that's going to be on Friday, the 11th of February. Where Owen, with the help of Melvin, is going to be running that, and our breakout room where we can brainstorm with other like-minded individuals. So, Owen, I want to take us very quickly into our favouritism round. This is
before we do that, Patrick. Before we do that, a very, very, very important point.
Yes.
If anybody would like to speak to or contact Owen, do they do that via smoke signals? Do they do it carrier pigeon? Is there some kind of communication method?
I'm on LinkedIn, as I've already said, very regularly. You'll find me on LinkedIn, Owain Williams, Owain. I'm very particular about that. And then the phone. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of using the phone. I get, like everybody else, I get drowned in emails all day long, people trying to engage with me. And very, very, very rarely are any of them looking to pick up the phone. And so I'm a big advocate of using the phone. Pick up the phone if you want to speak to me.
Is there a best number for people to contact you on, Owen, that you're willing to share?
Yeah, I'll share my business number. So 0330 127 3164.
Thank you for that. So let's get this favouritism round. So this is a few of your favourites. So first off, what is your favourite pastime or hobby?
No brainer for this. Those who know me will know instantly it's football. Football. I'm a massive football fan. Still playing football.
Excellent. Yes, you are indeed. And I think your team's doing quite well, aren't they?
We are. Yeah, we've got another cup game this Saturday evening, and then a spate of games, run of games throughout January and February. So yeah, we're starting to get to the busy end of the season, and we're doing well.
Excellent, and I'm sure that keeps you fit as well. Do you support a particular team, Owen?
I do. Manchester United.
Do you ever get to go to any of their games?
I haven't been to Old Trafford for a couple of seasons now. I did take my middle son, so a few years back. Yeah, a couple of seasons I haven't been to Old Trafford, but I'm not that typical Southern Red that I've never been. I've been numerous times, just not recently.
No, that's fair enough. And it's not round the corner from Kent.
Very true, that is.
Manchester United, so that's fair enough. Okay, so moving on, who is your favourite celebrity from any field and why?
Okay, well, this is unsurprisingly linked to football again, and it's going to be Zinedine Zidane. Yeah, who, in my opinion, is the GOAT, which means, for those who don't know, the greatest of all time. For me, he's the best there has ever been, is, and for the time being will ever be. Achieved everything in football, won literally everything an individual player can win, won all of the major trophies, and went out on an unbelievable note to his career.
Like a typical GOAT, it was on a headbutt, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. That was the end of his career, the World Cup final. And the greatest football player ever decided to get himself sent off, and France lost.
What was nice about the GOAT is that he doesn't gloat.
Very true.
As one of the greatest of all time, he's not in your face like you would have with, Beckham, etc. He's not looking for the publicity. He's not out looking for, all the glamour.
Absolutely.
He's understated, but was immense.
Absolutely. And obviously being a fellow Frenchman.
When he took the field, you took notice.
Absolutely. Every time. And yeah, being a fellow Frenchman, he'd be someone I could practice my French with as well.
Mais oui.
Yeah.
Or as I say in Essex, may we, Monsieur.
Yeah.
Excellent, very good. And so, your favourite food or meal, Owen?
This was a difficult one when you gave me the list, thinking about it, because I'm a big foodie. I eat literally anything and everything. The way I was raised, and I'm trying to raise my sons in the same way, and they seem to be coming along with it. If I had to pick, which I have to for this, it's a leg of lamb, very simple meal, very evocative of emotions, because it was a meal that my parents, who are no longer with us, would do, and it's a leg of lamb, studded with garlic and rosemary, of course, with roast potatoes and flageolet beans.
Oh,
In particular, have to be flageolet beans, which for about the last year and a half, I'm unable to get in the UK anymore. Sainsbury's were the only supermarket who did sell them, and they took them off their shelves quite some time ago. So
you'd have to go into London to a specialist supermarket.
yeah. So that's quite sad. So yeah, I've tried to substitute cannellini beans and butter beans, and they're okay, but it's not the same. But yeah, it's a very simple meal, extremely tasty.
Yeah.
It evokes great emotions and memories for me, and also my family love it too as well.
Okay, and we've had.
I can't wait to come round and have some.
When they come back in supply.
Yeah.
We've been suffering shortages for quite a bit in the last 6 months. There's been made a lot of news. I wasn't aware of the flageolet bean crisis.
Oh, it's a crisis, Patrick. It's a crisis for sure. Yeah.
Wait
My
till the
wife
media
and I
get
are up
hold
in
of that
arms.
one. They'll be all queuing out the door of Sainsbury's.
That's it,
I did actually hear on LinkedIn today, I think it was James Austin mentioned it, or someone like that, that they opened one of their Rose's chocolates. There was no caramel in it, and they also bit into a Twix, and there was no caramel in that. So there must be a caramel shortage as well. So you've heard it here first on the Case broadcast that there's a shortage of caramel and flageolet beans. So
yeah.
if you like caramelised flageolet beans, then your life is.
At least it's not toilet rolls again.
Yeah.
Indeed, very good. That's good, and nice and specific there as well with your bean choice. Very good. So now your favourite cartoon?
I don't watch cartoons nowadays, but my favourite one when I was a bit younger, The Simpsons.
Yes.
Yeah. An eternal classic. Love the irreverence of it, like most people do. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. And it blew my mind when I found out that it was one guy pretty much voicing all of the characters. Yeah, that was mind-boggling, and what a legend he is. But yeah, The Simpsons.
Yeah, I think that Simpsons and Family Guy feature high on our charts for favourite cartoons of our guests.
Yeah, the Family Guy, I never really got into. Whilst I am in no way a prude at all, I did find it a bit too much. I found it a bit OTT, and so never really grabbed me.
Yeah, fair enough. Acquired taste, indeed. So now, your favourite film, Owen?
For quite some time, I would have been a bit of a sheep with this, and I would have said The Shawshank Redemption, which is an amazing film, and for many people, it's quite regularly on their list of favourites. But when I saw this list yesterday, and got me thinking, the latest one, I in the last five odd years, I've become a big Marvel fan, and Thor Ragnarok. So that was his last individual film he did. Thor, was based on Thor, is a brilliant film. Absolutely love it. Love the character of Thor. He's definitely my favourite. So yeah, Thor Ragnarok.
Okay, and that's a mean hammer he's got as well.
Yeah, he actually loses the hammer. His sister destroys it, and so he has to get himself a new weapon, Stormbreaker. Yeah. Okay. But Stormbreaker doesn't show up until Infinity War, which is the kind of the Avengers film. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok, great film, very very funny. They evolved the character of Thor because in the early films he was very representative of how he has been mythically, very well spoken, kind of coming from nobility, and a bit of a stick up his bum. Whereas in Thor Ragnarok and then subsequent films afterwards, they've kind of given him a bit more personality, and humor in there as well, and he plays it really well. And he's very easy on the eye, Chris Hemsworth as well. It's very nice to look at.
Very unassuming, yeah.
So I didn't realise he lost his hammer in that film. So I assume that might be where the song "If I Had a Hammer" came from. I don't know.
No, I don't.
Wrong era.
Yeah, just a couple of decades.
Yeah,
out there.
wow.
Yeah, indeed. So your favourite TV show, Owen?
The timeless, and it really is timeless because my two eldest sons enjoy it as well, is Friends. Yeah, when it first came out, I was dating a girl who was absolutely obsessed with it, and obviously I'm no longer with her, I'm married to someone else, but I still connect with her, and she still, by all accounts, is still obsessed with it. But it's timeless. It really is timeless. The humor is timeless. Amazing. Their bonds, what they all went on to. The sad aspect of it is seeing the majority of them nowadays. I think, bar Lisa Kudrow and Matthew
LeBlanc.
LeBlanc, I'm pretty sure the rest of them have all succumbed to that pressure and had plastic surgery. I
don't know. Jennifer Aniston has no plastic surgery.
I would beg to differ because up until recently I thought the same, but then she appeared when they recently got together. It was only a few months ago. They got together for a show of sorts. It wasn't they didn't redo any episodes, but they were all together again, which has been a long time. And her face was really bloated. She had clearly had something done very recently. And I remember thinking that is such a shame because she was growing old gracefully and she's an absolute beauty. But now that's it. She spoiled it. But yeah, that aside, that's my favorite TV show, Friends. We can still chuck an episode that's 25 years old and still find it maybe relevant and funny.
Yeah. Okay. So fallen foul to the Botox generation. By the sounds. There we go. It's very popular. There's lots of anti-vaxxers, but there's lots of people quite happy to have an injection of Botox here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, such a great point. Such a great point.
Bit of your forehead, Patrick.
Yeah, well, indeed, that's right. Yeah, I mean, it just keeps growing. So to sum it all off now, your favourite comedy, Owen?
Now, my query is this a comedy show or a comedian?
Wherever you wish to go with this one. I love a bit of comedy, so I'm happy to go wherever you want on this.
Okay, well, I'll make a distinction then, and I'll make it a comedian because obviously Friends is deemed as a comedy as well. So my favourite comedian is Lee Evans.
A Westcliff lad.
Oh, was he? Okay,
yeah.
Right. Okay, yeah. I mean, he hasn't done much.
Really Ricky boy.
Oh, is he? Right. Okay, yeah. Well, he hasn't done much recently, but 10, 15
he's
years
retired.
ago.
He's retired.
It's probably sweated out because he's a very sweaty man, isn't he? Yeah.
Did you not see the Jonathan Ross show when he announced his retirement?
No. Okay. Right. Well, then that will explain why I haven't seen anything of him. But yeah, hilarious. The modern day. What do they call him? The modern day. Who was the other comedian who's used to pull all the faces and do?
What, Rowan Atkinson?
No. I'm talking about from maybe the 40s and the 50s. But there was
the guy that used to say Mr. Grimsdale.
Yes, Norman Wisdom. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Lee Evans was always marketed as the modern day Norman Wisdom. Very similar. They're very animated.
All around as well.
Yeah, very animated. And he was hilarious at this time. I mean, there's a lot of great comedians out there, but if I had to pick one, Lee Evans is my favourite. Always makes me laugh.
Yeah. His stand-up was brilliant. I felt whenever he appeared in a movie, it was always disappointing. He never worked well on the screen, but in stand-up, he was absolutely brilliant. And when he used to pull out people, if they get up halfway through the performance and say, "But where are you going? Where are you going?" He's off to the toilet, everyone. It was classic stuff. It was good. It was very good.
It was very good.
Anyway, we know you've got to get on today, so we're going to let you go. But thanks very much for being with us. We'd love to see everyone in the workshop in February. Do have a look on Eventbrite and check out our website. So without any further ado, it is a goodbye from me, Patrick Twitchett.
And it's a very good bye from Melvin Manning.
And it's goodbye from me, Owain Williams. Thank you very much for having me on, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye, everybody.
Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.